Hello, my name is Robin Treistman. I am the Deputy Director of the website of the Israeli Parliament, the Knesset, and I'm very honored to present our website in this forum, and I really hope that you'll learn something useful, maybe even interesting. Before I delve into the rest of my presentation, I would like to share a little bit of philosophy with you. The Knesset views transparency, and again, look at how we've claimed this here: access for all citizens to all parliamentary information. Once upon a time, transparency was really not the philosophy that government bodies went by. Once upon a time, if you had the information, you also had the power. And people didn't want to share power, so they didn't share information. And obviously, as we know, that the world has changed a lot. And so, as I said, the Knesset, the Israeli parliament, views transparency as actually a very high-ranking value, and really wants to be able to share all of the information that's connected to the legislative process to the citizens. And that could be in raw data and in data that is user-friendly and accessible. Although, by the way, when I use the word accessible, I'd like to actually mean two different things. Accessible, first of all, that everybody can actually get to it. And second, when we use the word accessible today, of course, we mean accessible for people with all kinds of special needs. And so again, when we say accessible, we're really meaning for all, everybody. Everybody can get to the information that the Knesset produces. Again, I want to give a little quick story here. Once upon a time, and again, when I say once upon a time, I don't mean hundreds of years ago, I mean 30 years ago. All the way up until the late 1980s, if a person wanted, a citizen of the state of Israel wanted the protocol of a committee of the Knesset, okay, one of the committee meetings, then they would have to apply to the committee to get that protocol. The committee would have to actually sit and meet and decide if they're going to approve the viewing of the protocol by that citizen. If it is approved, and I assume most of the time it was approved, the citizen had to come to the Knesset. There was no photocopying. They weren't allowed to photocopy the protocol. They would actually have to take notes and then walk away. And that would be it, basically. That was how people were able to access the raw data of committee meetings. Starting in 1999, the Knesset, from 1999 onward, put all of the protocols of all of the committee meetings online, accessible to all. And that was actually relatively early in the world of the World Wide Web and parliaments. And since then, of course, we've also gone backwards and put all of the protocols up online. But again, the idea here is really to show that, it's been for a very long time the Knesset's philosophy to try to share as much information as it can all the time. And another interesting sentence that I would like to add to that is, or another example, is the Knesset TV, for example, or parliamentary TV as a general rule. Parliaments spend millions, sometimes millions per year, or millions over several years of dollars, or in our case of shekels, millions of shekels every year, to have parliamentary TV accessible to the citizens all the time. And you wonder, I mean, the ratings of parliamentary TV, let's face it, are really not great. It's not a football game. It's not even shopping channel. So we're not talking about a lot of people watching it. So why do we have to have all that transparency? It's not for the millions of people who are watching parliamentary TV, or even the millions of people coming to visit the website. It's a must-have. It's a must-have because what about for all the millions of people that can watch it? Again, they won't necessarily watch it, but we have to make it available to them so that they can. So having that in mind, the Knesset really tries its best to make sure that it's always creating clear, easy to use interfaces so that everyone has direct access to all of the information that the Knesset has to offer. I do want to mention something. Earlier, I'd said something about the Knesset website staff. I want to just introduce my staff for a second. Obviously, it's just me here now, but there are 15 of us. Our website staff is a small, almost independent unit inside of the Knesset organizational structure that gives us a lot of flexibility. And it actually means that we can also create and improve our website in a very inexpensive way. Out of the 15 employees, we have content writers, we have UX and UI / graphic designers, and we have web developers. Again, when I say web developers, inside of our staff, we have what we might call light development, as opposed to if we have a big, new, highly functional section of the website, of course, we have outsourcing that actually sits within the Knesset. But for the most part, we have the model of our Knesset website staff is something very interesting that other parliaments might be interested in learning from, because like I said, we're very flexible. We can respond to citizen requests very, very quickly. We can make changes on the website very quickly. And again, I'd be very happy to share that information if anybody has questions. And I guess anyone who's going to be watching this will eventually have my email address. I'd be very happy to share information. I'm going to get back to that again later also. Okay, this particular slide, one sees that, and again, this is one of our drop-down menus, but you see that the Knesset website has a wealth of information. And of course, we're talking about static information and dynamic information. But again, I'm showing you right here on this particular page, on this particular menu, we have pages about the artwork, the building, the visitor center, research department. Of course, by the way, the visitor center right now, everything is virtual. We have a very detailed lexicon, parliamentary lexicon, for people to understand parliamentary terms. And then, of course, we have all the parliamentary activity. That's what I will be talking about mostly. Of course, Knesset members and their information. However, again, I'm going to be focusing the rest of this presentation on how the Knesset website presents the parliamentary activity and again gets that information out to the public in the best way possible. And in that, I know I'm well aware that most of the people who might be watching this this presentation are colleagues in other parliaments. So of course, when I speak about chamber and committees and legislation and how things work in a parliament, I'm how do they say, I'm speaking to the gallery, so to speak. I know you all know what you all know. We all share the same basic platforms in terms of the information that needs to get out to the public. So I'm coming from that place that you all understand what I'm talking about. So I will be addressing our information about the plenum. The plenum is the name for the Israeli chamber of the Knesset is unicameral. It is a one-house legislature, and the plenum is our chamber. And of course, we have committees. We have 12 standing committees and a whole bunch of other special committees, especially now in Corona time. And then it all gets tied together through the legislative database, which I will show you through legislation. By the way, and again, before I proceed, there's another thing that, again, many of you, my colleagues, share with the Knesset, and that is multi-language platforms. Now, the Knesset website has a Hebrew site, of course, that is the native language or the main spoken language of Israel, the official spoken language. We also have an English website, an Arabic website, and a Russian website. Now, of course, the three languages besides Hebrew, they all have press releases, they all have schedules and agendas and static information about the Knesset members. There's a lot of information that is out on those on the other language websites. But of course, the Hebrew website is where everything happens. And that's where we have all of the data and documents, and everything is going to be on the Hebrew site. And that's why you'll see the screens that I'll be showing you are, of course, in Hebrew, and I'm doing my best to have little bubbles of the English translation so that you can see what we're talking about. Okay, we'll start with the chamber. The Knesset plenum meets 3 times a week. Basically, the meetings of the plenum of the chamber have their own subsite within the Knesset website, and this what you see here is the main page. For each plenum meeting, okay, one can view the protocol, the bills, the agenda, the documents that are placed on the table, and the votes that take place during that plenum meeting or plenum sitting, how you want to call it. And when the plenum is meeting, the broadcast that one sees is the actual live meeting. And as soon as that is finished, then of course it goes into the VOD, the video on demand database. And in this, we have links to all of the latest chamber meetings, and we can also search by date or speakers. The different meetings. We have another feature that is called the synchronized protocol, in which you can view the video and watch a running, kind of like karaoke in a way. You can actually, and you can watch an underlined text at the same time. So that's kind of useful to some people. For the most part, people do use the VOD, and they use it quite a bit. Let's talk for a second now about the committees. Every committee in the Knesset has its own portal. A portal in our case is going to basically mean a kind of like its own subsite, its own world. Each committee really does have has its own place to put all of its information. Of course, most of what happens here is automatic. It's automatically fed from the internal databases of the Knesset on a constant database. Did I say database? On a constant basis. You all have to excuse my my slightly nervous English here, but anyhow. So let's take a look at this portal that I showed you. If you take a look, you see this is an example of the Finance Committee. We have right on the front page, we have the agenda. We have the news. I'm going to talk about the news in a second. We have the members. You can see right away the broadcast. Now, if there is a live broadcast at the particular time that you open up that page, it will be right on this page also. You can view the protocol. You can view the committee reports, the sub and joint committees, the conclusions, the background material, and the budgetary papers if needed. In this particular committee, that's what they debate. It's all there. It's all accessible. From feedback that we get from the public, for the most part, is quite friendly, and everybody can get to the information that they need. Again, some committees have some specialized features that others might not. Like I said here, for the example of the Finance Committee does have the budgetary papers, but for the most part, again, and I'm talking to people who know what I'm talking about, every parliamentary committee will have its minutes and its agenda and its reports and its conclusions or decisions. So again, you can look at, we present all of this information in 2 different ways. When you're inside of a committee portal, you can either see the entire agenda, or you can see all of the reports, or you can see all of the broadcasts, you can see all of the protocols, or every committee meeting is viewed as its own unit, as its own world. What do I mean by that? So here we have a list of all of the committee meetings. And as you see, each committee meeting has its own products and its own properties. So you take a look and you'll see that each meeting has its own agenda. That's the longer text on the right side. And then you have background material that's connected, the protocol, the broadcast. Now, again, the broadcast, we're talking about meetings that have already taken place. If there's a meeting that's taking place right now, you'll see that it is right now being broadcasted. Every meeting has a press release, and some meetings have conclusions or decisions. I do want to point out that again, this is very specific to our particular point in history. The meeting location for this particular meeting that took place on the 6th of January, 2021 is on Zoom. Now, again, if you look at all of them, they're all on Zoom right now, but that's something that hopefully like in another year, we'll look back and say, wow, that was on Zoom and this one is not. Or, you know, today it is not. And again, you go back 2 years ago, and of course, there was no such thing as Zoom or a meeting that would take place on Zoom. Everything was face-to-face. An interesting question hangs in the air about how parliaments are going to continue after Zoom is, I say Zoom, after Corona is behind us in the world. I want to make another quick statement. I'm kind of veering off away for a second from you know, what I said earlier, the chamber, the committees, and then the legislation. Besides the raw data coming out of the Knesset, and again, I'm talking about a protocol in the format of a Word document or a conclusion that is also a Word document, which is basically, of course, in parliamentary language and not necessarily useful for someone who just wants to know what's going on immediately. The Knesset also, after almost every committee meeting and after every plenum chamber meeting, produces press releases. This is actually, this screen that I'm sharing here is actually on the homepage of the Knesset. And there is, of course, its own another page that is just the news page. But there's breaking news that is taking place all the time in the Knesset. And then you can also go to all Knesset news. But the point is that besides the raw material that is coming out of the Knesset is also providing, in layman's terms, in easier to understand language, a summary of what happened in this particular Knesset committee meeting or in the chamber today, or there might be an event in the Knesset. Remember those, but again, before Corona time, if there's an event that actually took place and it reports on that. And a lot of these, by the way, a lot of the press releases that the Knesset produces are quoted word for word by the larger press. So let's talk about legislation. If it weren't for the laws, there wouldn't be a parliament. That's the whole point of the parliament, is to pass laws, to amend laws, to invalidate laws or cancel them if need be. That's the whole point. And for the legislation is really why we have the committees and the chamber. And so what we call the National Legislation Database of Israel actually sits on the Knesset website and was put together by the Knesset. Now, I'm going to also veer away from my regular programming here and explain a little bit about how the Knesset website staff works. When we were planning the National Legislation Database, it was very important to us to try to make it as friendly and visual as possible for the public. In fact, if I have to summarize that in one sentence, a top priority of the Knesset website staff is to create or strike the greatest balance as possible between an interface that is pleasing and engaging to the eye, but is also well organized and easy to use so that everyone can get through large amounts of data and find what they want. Okay, so how do we figure out how to present all of this? We go shopping for inspiration. How do we do that? First of all, because the best places to find inspiration for a parliamentary website is, of course, to visit other parliamentary websites. And I'd be very happy if people come and visit the Knesset website to get ideas. We go shopping for ideas. And then, of course, we might be inspired by some ideas, take those ideas and then recreate them or add our own twist, so to speak, and create pages based on that. Again, the goal is to get the information out there to the public in the best way possible. Sometimes, in order to do that, we need to visit commercial sites also to see if we can find some interesting new and really up-to-date ideas about how to present information to the public. Okay, so now I want to talk about the National Legislation Database. So what is the National Legislation Database in the first place? It's a virtual, or I should say a digital depository of all of the laws of the State of Israel since the State of Israel was founded in the year 1948. All of the laws are here. The laws that are in effect today and those that are not in effect anymore are also online. So if you take a look at this page right here is basically the search and then the grid of all of the laws of the State of Israel. In this particular case, all of the valid or current or laws that are in effect right now. Once you click on one of the laws, okay, you get the law and you get information about dates, the original date and when it was passed. This is, in this particular case, we're talking about the National Insurance Law. There's a link to a full text of the law. And then below, all of the amendments are listed out. Now remember, an amendment is also a law. However, the amendments are what we will call really the child laws of the parent law. But again, all of the documents are there. So besides the laws, of course, laws are after the bills have been passed into laws. How do I track the bills that are taking or that are running through the legislative process right now? So first of all, we also have, similar to the laws, we also have a list of the bills, the current bills or bills that have already been passed. And if you notice on the grid, there are color-coded, a little bar there that is color-coded, which is marked here in English as the stage of the bill. It is very easy for the user to right away spot, again, just by viewing colors. And by the way, remember I said something about accessibility for people who have special needs. This page is also accessible in that sense. But for a person who can see colors and enjoy them and relate to them and be able to use it, this page is very easy to spot which bills are in which stage of the process, which have gone through the entire process. Those are the ones that go green, 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 blue at the end. And of course, we can filter by what stage they are in. We can search. You can search by many parameters, as you see. Now, again, a person who is doing some serious research might need some very, to really go down into some of the more technical parameters. However, anyone can put in a word from the name of the law or bill, sorry, in this case, and right away find what they're looking for. Now, an interesting feature we have here also. What happens if you have a law that is called one way in the press, it has a nickname in the press, and that name has nothing to do with the official name of the law? One of the architects of this legislation database, her daughter had to do a research paper for school, and she was looking for what was called in the press, it was called the surrogacy law, okay, for surrogate mothers. So she wanted to find the surrogacy law in the national database that we had, and it was already up and running. And she's looking and she's looking, she can't find it. And she comes to her mother and she said, her mother, who again was one of the people behind this database, and she said, I can't find it. So what feature did they add? They added a feature that the name of the nickname of a law can also be searched in the database, even though it is not anywhere near the name of the law. And one great example, besides the surrogacy law, which by the way, had a different name, is something about the law for the agreement of the carrying of a fetus. Okay, the word surrogacy doesn't show up anywhere in there, but now if you put in the surrogacy law, you will get, the result will show you that law that I was talking about. And again, that's because that's what everybody called it in the press. We have the Norwegian law. What's the Norwegian law? It was an amendment to the basic law of the Knesset, of how the Knesset is run. So again, your average, regular citizen on the street knows it as the Norwegian law. If he or she would go to the national database and put in the word Norwegian law, they wouldn't find it. But again, we fixed that feature, and what's really important about that idea is that with every step of the way, the Knesset website staff is really trying to come towards the public for their needs to be able to help them find the information that they need. Okay, now what I'd shown you before were all of the were screens that any user, any citizen can come to the Knesset website and find all of the laws that they need, the bills that they need, all of the committee meetings. I did not mention, by the way, that on each law, by the way, has all of the committee meetings, protocols, and VOD and videos attached to that particular law. And again, it all ties together there in the database. Now, we have a screen here, OData. For people who are in the know, okay, people who write apps and people who can create web apps or phone apps based on the Knesset information, the Knesset website also provides a link to all of the data that is inside the National Legislation Database, which again, all the data that is there is basically pulling in also all of the data of the work of the committees and the work of the plenum, the chamber. And so basically somebody who knows how to work with OData can get all of the information from the Knesset in a raw manner and turn it into the application that is useful for them or for their own constituents or something like that. Again, how used is it? It definitely was more used in the past, and I can actually explain that our OData was more used in the past because we had not gotten to a point where the interfaces on our website were where they are today. And now that our interfaces on the website are where they are today, people are finding that they don't need to create special apps to get to the same information. They're able to come to the Knesset website and enjoy and benefit directly from the screens and the pages that we have set up for them. And so that was a word about OData. Okay, I would like to make a small statement about what I mentioned earlier, Corona time. We all know what Corona time is. And again, that's kind of the nickname that it has been given in Israel. Corona time is basically beginning March 2020 all the way through today, and we don't know how much longer. Okay. However, one of the and if you see on this particular screen, I'm also showing you a graph with an increase in something. What is the increase here? As important as it has always been to have the Knesset information be provided to the public as accessibly as possible and round the clock and all the time and updated all the time, it is even that much more important now during Corona time to do that because people are not able to get here. Here means to the Knesset to get their information or to participate or whatever it might be. So again, is it surprising? It's not surprising that the use or the the visits or the hits that we get to the Knesset website, of course, has been going up in all of the languages, not just in our Hebrew website where all of the raw data is available. And people are really making use of the Knesset website. And I do want to make one more interesting statement about the Knesset during Corona time. Even though at the very beginning, the whole getting settled into Corona time was a little bit bumpy, the Knesset never stopped working. At the very beginning, when let's say April of 2020, when it became apparent that Israel had to go down into a lockdown, the Knesset website staff, and again, I'm going to use the word bumpy at the beginning because we had to make sure everybody had a laptop. We had to make sure that the remote connection worked well and smoothly, and that we had access to all of the interfaces that we needed in order to make the Knesset website run properly. But again, even during that time that it was getting started, we never stopped. The Knesset never stopped working and doing its legislative stuff that it needs to do. And the Knesset website never stopped making sure that all of the information went up online to the public. I'm very proud of that. And again, now we've all gotten into the Corona time groove. We all know what is expected of us. We all know how to work from home also. And we all know how to make sure that the website keeps running properly. Again, it wasn't so clear at the beginning, but we managed to get through that trial period at the beginning, and we're very happy to say that we made it. It might be obvious that or in the way I speak or whatever, I'm very passionate about the work that I do at the Knesset. And the idea about being able to connect the public to all of the information that is coming out of the Knesset. And again, remember that we are not anymore in a time where knowledge is or information is power. And in fact, the opposite. All of the parliaments are really tripping over themselves all the time, trying to figure out how to get the information out to the public, as easily or as accessibly as possible. So I'm very happy with my job. I'm very happy where I work. I'm very happy with what we do. And the truth is, I have much, much more to say about the work that our website does. Okay, we have, I didn't say anything about social media. I didn't say anything about the Knesset members pages. I didn't say anything about the quizzes that we do. And we even had a quiz that was virtual and then ended up being real. The last stage of the quiz took place in the Knesset building itself with cash prizes, and it was really amazing. And I have more to say about the virtual classroom that we want to set up. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stop here because I'm supposed to keep my presentation short and to the point. Anyhow, like I said earlier, a lot of what I said to you might have been, redundant for some of you because you, my colleagues, work in parliaments and you know all about this stuff. I do hope that there was something, even one idea, that I was able to bring over to you and give you a new idea, a new way of looking at things. Anyway, if you have any questions, any comments, I'll be very happy to hear from you. Please don't hesitate to be in touch. And, our website staff is very happy to be helpful. And we're looking forward to one day, maybe we'll actually see you all for real at some point in the future. And thank you very much for your time.